Hey everybody, Jeff Williams here with AskJeffWilliams.com. Okay, today we're up here in beautiful Carson City, Nevada. Out front here, the Nevada State Museum. Now I like this place because it's got a mine exhibit down inside the basement, kind of creepy. Anyway, we're going to take you downstairs and we're going to show you that. And then we're going to go around the town and over to Virginia City and show you a bunch of other stuff. But it's a really special episode and I want you guys to take it all in, especially all you mining buffs out there. So let's go. Okay, come with me. They got a really nice ghost town set up in here. Kind of creepy too, so follow me. You see the old buildings here? They got all the old artifacts that are inside here. And some of these doors are actually originals that they brought in from other places around Nevada. The old assay office is in here. They've done a fabulous job of recreating all this. And you can see the old steel doors like they have in Virginia City that they put on the front of the buildings, you know, that way people, vandalizers can't get in there and break the glass and try to break in. They even have a nice setup here with an old-time prospector and of course his donkey. Everybody's got to have a mule. Anyway, so this is the outer exhibit. We're going to go down inside into the mine and see what's down below. So come on, let's go. Okay, what we have here is one of the original elevators that they used on the Comstock load. It's got the safety locks on it, and it's set up for an ore cart to ride up and down in, but this is the original. Come on. This is basically a turn plate that they use for the ore cars to rotate around on and go on to different sets of track. In here, you can see the powder monkey in there putting blasting caps and fuses together. It's fantastic. Down here, you had the rescue apparatus for mine fires that they would use if there was any kind of a fire with a self-rescuer on there. Okay, right here, you can see where men are working a stope. Back in this area, the stope is basically a large cavernous area where the body of ore has been taken out. He's got a drift drill back in there. Basically, he's running a drift, which is just a long tunnel. Of course, you can see where they got the stope going up into the rock here, where they pulled out the ore body. Come on. Down here, you got an ore cart and an ore bin. You can see how they reproduce this authentically. It's fantastic the way that they got this set up. A representation of square set timbering on the Comstock, which we're going to see later on. You can see all these little cubes that hold the entire ore body, or I should say the contact zones apart where they pull the ore body out. It's like a little city underground. Come on. Here's one of the underground winzes. This guy would operate this hoist. It would pull this skip car up right over here. And the skip car would pull ore up from lower surfaces and it would dump automatically. So that way you didn't have to mess with it. Here you got an old, well, it's a reproduction of a stamp mill. You can see the stamps in there. And usually the thing runs, but I can't seem to find the button to turn it on. But that would crush the ore down into a fine micron powder, wash over a copper plate with mercury on it, and then the gold would become amalgam, and they would scrape it off later. Okay, here you've got one of the stopes that goes up. Basically, here's your two contact zones. There's your ore body up in there, all that glistening rock. You can see the support timbers that would hold the two ore bodies apart. The miners would always use gravity when they did their mining. And so they would drill and blast, and then the ore would fall down, slide down this contact zone, and they'd usually have an ore bin at the bottom to collect it all up. The ore bin looked like this. Basically an ore chute, ore bin, and all the ore would pull it behind it. They'd put the ore cart here, pull this up, all the ore would fall into it, boom, they'd be good to go. Here's another good representation of a mine after it's been left alone or the outside is collapsing in. You can see where the timbers are starting to fracture and come in, and you can see this is actually exactly what it looks like. And matter of fact, I think they got these timbers out of a real mine. But you can see where the mine is basically the outer rock is just compressing the timbers down and shattering them. Even though they're massive 12 by 12 timbers, after so much time the earth will eventually collapse down on any size timber. But this is a really good representation of what it looks like, so without having to go down in there. Another slide plate here for the ore carts, so you could turn them around and around, get them from side to side. Here's a geologist working an ore vein. You can see the quartz vein running in between these two contact zones. One's granite, then you got the quartz in the middle, and then you've got the ironstone on the right. And then you can see the little layers of gold that run or lace through that quartz vein. Okay, come on. All right. Here's a powder monkey, what they used to call them. After they would prime the blasting caps in dynamite, they would stick them in to these holes. There would be a specific blasting sequence, usually 7 to 9 holes. Some of the harder rock mines use 16 holes. Anyway, they would the fuses sticking out of the dynamite charges are called rat tails back in the old days. They would fire the center off first, then the top of the mine was called the back, then they'd do the ribs, and then the bottom would be the kicker charge, which would throw everything out onto a slide plate so they could dig it all off of the slide plate. And here you can see the gentleman tapping the explosives into the holes. Now over here, this gentleman is he's working a raise, what's referred to as a raise or a stope, and he has one of these larger pneumatic drills. And what they do is they drill up into the ceiling, and then by doing so they would tamp the charges up in the roof, and then they would blast out the roof, especially if there's an ore body there, and then it would create a large cavity, which would be called stoping. Usually if the body of rich ore is in there, that's what they would do. Now, to get the dynamite to do that, they usually kept it in a place like this. This is referred to as a powder magazine. The powder magazine is where they kept all the dynamite. Remember, you don't want to keep your dynamite and your blasting caps in the same spot. These are the original dynamite boxes that they used to use back in the late 1800s. Hercules, Giant, and a couple other companies used to make these, but Atlas was another company, but Giant and Hercules and Atlas were the 3 biggest companies out there. And we used to find these down in the mines all the time. So, come on. Down in the mines, they had to pump air and water to the drills. Of course, you have to have air to run the pneumatic drills, but you'd also use water to pipe through the center of the drill so it wouldn't kick up all the dust and create silicosis in the lungs. So what they would do is down on the lower levels, and sometimes up on the surface, is they'd have these big old compressors down here ran by electric motor, because you can't run it with a gasoline engine because all that carbon monoxide would kill you. So they'd have these guys running 24 hours a day, pumping air through this big old pipe right here. See this pipe? And what it would do is it would pump air throughout the mine, and the miners could tap right into it and hook their drills into it and drill all those holes for the dynamite, because that's the only way you can mine is with drilling holes in dynamite. So you'd find these all throughout the mines, and sometimes on the surface you find them, and they come in a variety of sizes. Some of them are huge. Last but not least, my favorite, the ore cart. This is at the majority of the material was moved around inside the mines on these tracks that you see down here, and this big old iron box right here. They would push these up to an ore bin, open it up, and the ore would fill this thing up. They'd pour it into a skip cart, take it to the surface, or they'd take the whole cart up through a shaft. Now, if it was just waste rock, then they would put that in there, that'd go to the surface, and they'd dump it into what was called the mine dump. A lot of people confuse that. They call it tailings piles. Remember, a mill creates tailings, and a mine creates mine dumps, so don't confuse that. All right, let's keep going. Okay, now we're right back where we started again. Here's our slide plate again. Like I said, the ore carts would come in here, they could jockey them left or right on this slide plate. And you can see the track in the floor. They did a fantastic job reproducing this. So anyway, I know this is a real quick underground exploration, but I got a whole bunch of other things I want to show you. So anyway, next stop, we're going to go be seeing a lot more of Carson City and then Virginia City. So stay with us. Get this stuff.